Yo, what's up? But it's Rob. This is Apparel Success. And I've been doing clothing brand reviews now for the past 6 or 7 years. Hundreds of clothing brands I've looked at and done paid reviews for. And I've noticed that there's 3 things that go into a really bad clothing brand idea. So you might be sitting over there wondering if your clothing brand idea is any good or not. And by the end of this video, you're gonna have a really good idea of what makes a great idea for your clothing brand and what is a really bad idea. So this is gonna be an excellent assessment of your own clothing brand idea and how you can tweak it and how you can make it as best as humanly possible. I really hope you enjoy. Here it is. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at Design Crowd. If you struggle with designs, I really recommend that you try them out. You post a project on Design Crowd. Amazing designers from all around the world are going to compete for your project. You choose the winner, then you get that design plus revisions. I've literally sold thousands of these designs on my website, and I got them all made through Design Crowd. If you're interested, head over to designcrowd.com/apparel to learn about the special offer that I have for you, or just use the discount code APPAREL when you post a project on Design Crowd. All right, so there are 3 things that go into a really bad brand idea. And please God, don't have any of these issues with your own clothing brand idea, since they're all avoidable. And all of these things, by the way, if you find that as we're watching this video, you go, oh my God, this is what's actually wrong with my brand, you can always tweak this. You can always make changes to it. The first thing that makes a clothing brand idea a bad idea is if it lacks originality. There are a lot of brands that start up that are just trying to copy other brands and they're just imitating popular trends. They're not adding any unique elements to their brand. And if you come out with a brand that is lacking originality, good luck in this space. It is so ridiculously saturated, this clothing brand space. And not only is the clothing brand space saturated, but social media in general. So it's not like you're just competing with other clothing brands now. We're also competing with every other business in the world that's trying to get market share on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, whether you're spending ads or you're trying to do it organically. If you're spending money on ads, it's going to be super expensive because everybody's trying to market using ads, so it's costing a lot more every day. And if you're trying to do it organically on social media, more and more people are trying to post their businesses on social media. So it's becoming more and more important that your brand has a true sense of originality. You're doing something completely new that hasn't been done before, that catches eyes and where people go, oh, there's something special going on here. I really dig this. So that's the first thing about your clothing brand idea that is an absolute must in order for you to succeed in 2023, 2024, and moving forward. And just to be clear here, the fact that your clothing brand has its own unique name doesn't necessarily mean you're being original. Because what a lot of people do is they cover up their brand concept that is like hundreds of other brand concepts out there with a different name. Like there are hundreds of clothing brands trying to compete in the surfing space. If you name your clothing brand Joe's Surf Brand, which I just came up off the top of my head, then it doesn't mean that your brand is doing anything different from all these other brands except for just having a different name. So the brands that are going to succeed in the surfing space are going to be brands that are underneath the surface of their name doing something different. Like maybe they offer a different fabric on their swim shorts, or they have some different marketing strategy that's super cool and super different. Something that they're doing within their brand itself is truly special, so the name itself doesn't really get to the core of your originality. The second quality of a bad clothing brand idea is that your brand lacks a brand identity. And the 2 words that I want you to remember here when it comes to your brand identity that are the most important is that your brand is clear and that it's compelling. What a lot of clothing brands do is they have really inconsistent messaging. They have really confusing brand statements where you really don't know what they're actually about. And my clothing brand suffered from this when I first started. I had to make that tweak. I had to improve and I had to evolve into a brand that was much more clear, where it was more obvious that my clothing brand represents rural Canada and not just representing the raw attitude of authentic Canadians, which is like the world's most confusing brand statement ever. A weak or confusing brand story or brand concept manifests itself by being very difficult for you to connect with your target audience and actually create brand loyalty. People have nothing to sink their teeth into if they don't really know what the hell your brand is truly about, or who you're going for, or what makes you you. So it's really important that your brand, just like a human being, has a very well-developed identity. You know that I'm the clothing brand guy online. That's what I do. I do clothing brand stuff, and that's Rob. And that makes you feel comfortable because I'm not being super confusing here. I'm not teaching people how to also go to space. It's very nice to know that this is what I do, this is who I'm helping, and it's just very clear and simple. If I had a very difficult way of explaining that to you and it was very confusing, it would be off-putting and you'd probably go watch somebody else. You wouldn't be watching my videos because you wouldn't know what you're getting consistently. So you should be able to say what's different about your brand, what's special about your brand, and who are you in just a couple simple sentences. And the more clear and concise you can do that, the better. So this is what's going to set you apart from the competition, and it's what's really going to allow people to really want to get on board with your brand. The third quality of a bad clothing brand idea is that your clothing brand idea lacks market demand. There should be demand or interest in the style, aesthetic, or concept of your brand. And maybe what I've seen a lot in brand reviews is that a lot of people are coming up with the ideas for their brand because they're these clever ideas that they come up with in the shower one day. But when you look at the real world and you look at people and you say, would people actually want to spend money on this? It's a completely different world. And this is why I say when you come up with your brand idea, the best brand ideas are built through research. You research how many people are like this, how many people are in this particular market. What do they do? What do they say? How do they talk? How can I connect with this market as best as possible? These free-flowing ideas that come to you in the shower, sure, sometimes they're good ideas, but you're not actually getting in touch with reality as much. And I'll give you a great example of this. I did a brand review about 5 years ago, and the brand that I was reviewing, their whole concept was about how everybody is unique. Everybody's really their own special snowflake. And you could make the argument that that's totally true. Everybody is really their own special snowflake. Everybody is truly special and unique in their own ways. But to build your whole brand on this, like, I don't think I would ever buy a brand that is like celebrating how unique people are. Like, just the brand was built on something that people just really wouldn't want to buy clothing for. Like, it's not something that people wrap their identity in as being just generically unique. And so that was kind of the feedback that I gave him, as the brand concept it just needed to be like honed. It needed to be more specific. What makes you unique, and which type of unique person are you trying to sell to, and stick to that type of person, because that's how you build a brand to begin with. So that's just a great example of how important actually having a real market demand is. And I know for my clothing brand, like, people aren't going to buy my clothing brand just because Rob here built a brand and they just want to support. They're only going to buy it if they're truly connecting with it. And that's why my brand is for rural Canadians, people living in rural Canada. All the designs have sayings that they'll resonate with, the ways that they speak, the ways that they talk, designs that are really just about Canada and expressing that patriotism for Canada. And that's why people buy the brand that I'm selling. And you need to know, what is that? And is there demand for it in your particular space? So just to recap here, make sure that your brand is doing something original. Make sure that your brand has a clear identity, and make sure that your brand idea actually has strong market demand. If you can do all three of those things, then you're on the right path. You've got a great brand idea that you can work with, and you'll likely be successful into the future if you work really, really hard at it. I spent a full month recording a 100% free clothing brand course for anybody starting up a clothing brand right now. All you have to do to get access is go to freeclothingcourse.com. You can go through it at your own pace, and I'll see you in the next one.